This program opens with a series of traditional sacred pieces for the Advent from 16th century Spain and beyond. Why did you choose to highlight this music from the specific time and place versus choral music that we often hear this time of year?
I think you really got it right when you said time and place, because we know that being in Arizona, in one of the southwestern states of the US, we owe such a great deal to the Hispanic heritage and tradition of people who've populated this land for many centuries.
Absolutely.
And it's important for us in the chorale to have a great sense of place. We are for and of the community of Phoenix. Each of our singers comes from the Valley area. We don't fly people in, and we're unique amongst professional choirs in that manner. And so what we want to do is make sure that we acknowledge and celebrate the history and traditions of the land we're fortunate to perform on. And as such, I wanted this Christmas to look at the Hispanic tradition from across the centuries. And as with most cultures, Spain has a rich heritage of folk songs and folk tradition. And so we're presenting 3 Catalan folk songs from a particularly proud region of Spain, the eastern region of Spain, that through the oral tradition, through the word of mouth, would have been sent all around the world in the ships as they left from Spain during the great time of expansion when the New World was rediscovered by European settlers back in the 15th and 16th centuries. And these songs and these tunes were brought over here by the families who came to join the communities that were already present in these lands. And this is a way of presenting new arrangements of these famous old Christmas carols and folk songs. And they present a wonderfully rustic and pastoral scene. How can we as ordinary people put ourselves in the position of the shepherds and the wise men as they would have adored and wondered at the birth of Christ all those centuries ago? What could we bring to them? And so it talks of traditional gifts, cherries, nuts, figs, which would have been prized as wonderful things, treats to have during the Christmas period in those parts of Spain. And the idea is that we would honour the infant king by bringing those gifts to him as he was born. Completely inappropriate, of course, for a young child to be eating these things, but it's not the point. The point is that we're going back and celebrating these wonderful rustic carols in brand new arrangements. And then secondly, we're performing works by the great Spanish Renaissance composer Francisco Guerrero. Mm-hmm. And we know that his work came across in many of the ships to Mexico and would have been performed in the great cathedrals in Mexico City and Puebla, and would have been brought up by missionaries who were coming to bring the good news, as they saw it, to the southwestern states of what is now the United States, and performed in the mission churches. We know this happened because there are original manuscripts of these pieces in the cathedral library in Puebla, in Mexico. So these pieces were copied, and they are for and of this place as much as they are from Spain itself. And it brings us great joy to bring the secular tradition of the folk songs, the sacred tradition of these beautiful carols and motets by Guerrero, and honour them in this place, which is so heavily influenced by, more than 30% of the population here is identifying as Hispanic, and we want to honour their Navidad tradition as much as the Christmas tradition of the Anglo-American population. And then finally, a piece from South America by the great Ariel Ramirez. And this is from a Christmas Mass that he composed. And this is a unique vocal arrangement, again, rearranged specifically for these performances in Phoenix, of his piece La Peregrinación, which speaks of the journey of the Holy Family to Bethlehem and seeking a place where Mary might be able to give birth. And the harmonies and the melodies are so clearly Spanish in influence and origin. And they're a beautiful, slightly spicy, slightly different way of celebrating the musical tradition that we enjoy at this time of year.
Wow, that's a really great inspiration for a holiday concert. I love the diversity importance there. But in contrast, you also have some Ralph Vaughan Williams. What makes the holiday season a good time to celebrate his 150th birthday?
Well, we go back to folk. Folk tradition is something which is very important to me. I think there's something incredibly natural about the idea of men and women from throughout the ages and from across every nation in the world simply composing in their heads and singing what came naturally, melodies that came naturally to them, telling of stories, this wonderful oral tradition, again, of storytelling. And really, that's what people have used for generations to make sense of the world around them. And with Christmas or the Winter Solstice Festival being such an important celebratory time of year, during times of terrible weather, we need the excuse to put the fire on, get some of our favourite food and our favourite drink, and come together and celebrate to break the gloom and in England, the damp and the wet of the season and the cold. And so Vaughan Williams, of course, 150 years since his birth, as you mentioned, and he was instrumental in saving the English folk tradition. He and several of his colleagues travelled around the British Isles and also further afield in Canada and other of the what then were British Empire colonies, I suppose, collecting the rich heritage of music that was passed down from generation to generation through this oral tradition. And so his Fantasia on Christmas carols puts together in one place some of these wonderful carols that he found and he recorded and he saved for posterity. And I don't think it's too much of a leap to say that without his work and the work of Gustav Holst and other similar colleagues during the early years of the 20th century, we might not have these melodies to enjoy. And that would be a great shame. We'd be all the poorer as musicians not to have them, because there's something so natural about the shape of folk melodies that speaks to each and every one of us. They fit very naturally within our voices. They make sense. It's a journey with an ending, a musical ending. We know we're going to get there. It just makes sense. So this Fantasia is a homage to the great man, Ralph Vaughan Williams, but also to his fantastic work to preserve these folk songs and these folk carols, which we love in America as well as in the UK.
Absolutely. I'm a violist, and violists.
So am I.
Are you really?
Floss Campi.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah. Do you know Floss Campi from Vaughan Williams' piece? Incredible viola
I
solo
do,
piece.
yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say all violists have a very special place in our hearts for Vaughan Williams.
We do. I quite agree, yes.
And I think the tone of the viola matches the human voice so well that Vaughan Williams' music and the folk tunes, it just really fits. It's
I agree.
beautiful.
It does. There's something about the viola which makes it feel a lot more genuine in many ways. And, the violin's a bit of a showboat instrument. And
It's a little squeaky.
it's a little squeaky. A cello can be a bit whiny, and double bass only has to play 3 notes. It doesn't really count. But violas, we have this wonderful richness of tone. It's much more where the human voice is based. And I agree with you.
It's just right.
It's just right.